Hi guys, it's highly unlikely that Winston Churchill ever made this statement or something like it, but it's still pretty sound. The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. Well, what about a 1-minute conversation with an average voter? So this guy here, who was interviewed by Politics Joe, had some interesting things to say about Nigel Farage, Keir Starmer, and Charles, who he had an interesting new title for. Have a listen.
It's not about being racist. I've got Italian in my side, Moroccan, half-caste people in my Jamaican, and it's about who's paying for all this and what they're getting away with. And most of the people seem to think they are terrorists, which is right.
Okay, so most of the people are terrorists.
What do you think that Keir Starmer should do about this issue?
Resign. I can't stand him, really. He's a failed Prime Minister, the most hated Prime Minister in England at the moment, along with our fallen King. And I'm afraid that's what he's nicknamed, the Mad King, or the Fallen King.
Why is he calling Charles the Mad King? Is it because the monarch, and I'm no monarchist, okay, and I highly doubt this guy is a Republican, but what has Charles done which has upset so many people, especially on the right? You know, people who are supposed to be supporters of the royal family are really angry with King Charles at the moment. Is it because he spoke positively about Islam or something like that? That seems to be the only thing I can come up with.
And Starmer has just ruined this country, and he's making it worse. And I think a lot of the Labour MPs ain't realising they're never going to get back once he's out, and they should say, no, we've had enough. We want an election.
Okay. Why would Labour MPs who are sitting on very small majorities, as you pointed out, they're never going to get back in, why would Labour MPs who are sitting on these very small majorities want a general election? How would it help the situation for them to have a general election? Like, they could replace the leader, put in somebody like Angela Rayner or maybe a long shot Andy Burnham. You know, there are issues related to that. But let's say, for the sake of argument, they're not happy with Starmer and they replace. Wouldn't it make more sense for them to replace Starmer than call a general election? Because if they call a general election, as you've pointed out, they would not get back in. They would lose their seats. Like, in what world would an MP who has a slim majority vote for a general election knowing that they would lose their seat and somebody else would take over? Like, in what world would Labour MPs prefer Reform to be in charge, or the Conservatives to be back in charge, or the Green Party to be in charge? In what world would they want that? Do you understand how elections work? And of course, it's the Prime Minister that calls the election, not the MPs. The MPs can force the Prime Minister, but it's the Prime Minister at the end of the day who calls the general election. We saw it with Rishi Sunak. Some people seem to think it's, well, if we have a petition, we can have a general election. No, it doesn't work like that. Or maybe we can pressure the MPs to call a general election. You can pressure the MPs to pressure the Prime Minister, but if the Prime Minister says no, there won't be a general election. You have to replace the Prime Minister if you want to have a general election, and that Prime Minister doesn't want to go down that road. So you replace them, and then a new one comes in and they call a general election if they think that they can win. But we know that Labour will not win. So it would be insane for them to call a general election at this stage. Like, no one within the Labour Party believes that they would win a massive majority again if there was a general election tomorrow. So in what mindset would they do something like that?
Yeah.
And the quicker they do that, the better this country stands a chance of getting someone in. I'm not saying Nigel Farage is the perfect man. He's got a lot of mouth, but not a lot of action. At the moment.
Would you trust him more than you trust Keir Starmer?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
You trust Nigel Farage over Keir Starmer. Look, Keir Starmer is not very trustworthy, but you would trust Nigel Farage, who has lied constantly about pretty much everything. You would trust him. Like, if you had said, I don't trust either of them, then he'd be a bit more honest and he'd be a bit more credible. But to say you trust Nigel Farage more than Keir Starmer, I know the bar is pretty low, but my goodness.
Yeah. And I think he should listen to people like Tommy Robinson and those lot. I think he should listen to them.
So this would be the end of Reform UK. And Nigel Farage understands that if he was to listen to Tommy Robinson, it will be over. It will be over very quickly. As I've mentioned before, Tommy Robinson has a massive ego. Tommy Robinson is not somebody who can be told to sit down and shut the F up. So he would be a massive problem for Reform. This is why people linked to Tommy Robinson are being kicked out of Reform. This is why Nigel Farage has distanced himself greatly from Tommy Robinson and that lot. So the idea that they could work together is for the birds. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's highly unlikely at the moment, because what Reform are trying to do is they're trying to expand their base. They're trying to reach out to voters outside the far right. They need to talk more about policies that impact ordinary people. They need to talk about the cost of living crisis. They need to talk about the NHS. They need to talk about banking, taxes, stuff like this. They can't just talk about immigration. If they are stuck on that, then they're not going to go anywhere. But if they bring in someone like Tommy Robinson, it's going to be 2 steps back. So Nigel Farage is not stupid. He's a lying charlatan, but he's not dumb. And he understands that any association with Tommy Robinson is poison. It's kryptonite. So he needs to abandon people who are close to him and distance himself from the far right as much as possible. This is why I believe he didn't attend these protests outside these hotels. And he may change tune. He may go to these protests in the future, but I think he wants to expand beyond his base. That's why he's going to the farming protests. This is why he's going to other protests that are not directly related to immigration, because he wants to broaden his appeal. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. I'll see you in the next video.